Imagine a steaming bowl of bulalo, a Filipino delicacy that is a feast for the senses. Picture a clear, savory broth, brimming with the tender morsels of beef shanks, the richness of marrow, and the warmth of a home-cooked meal. Garnished with vibrant greens, it's served piping hot, echoing the comforting and hearty nature of this dish. A staple in Filipino cuisine, bulalo is more than just a meal. It's a symphony of flavors that tells a story of tradition and love. Ready to bring this culinary delight into your kitchen? Follow these simple steps. To start, gather all the necessary ingredients. We're going to need some beef shanks and bone marrow. These are the stars of our dish, providing a rich and hearty flavor. For vegetables, we'll incorporate cabbage and peche, which are traditional in Filipino cuisine. However, feel free to substitute with any leafy greens of your choice. Next up are potatoes, providing a comforting, starchy element. Corn is optional, but it can add a delightful sweetness. For the base of our broth, we'll use onions and garlic, the dynamic duo of flavor. Peppercorns give a hint of heat, and fish sauce, the secret weapon, brings a deep umami taste. If you're vegetarian, you can substitute the beef with mushrooms and use soy sauce instead of fish sauce. Remember, the beauty of home cooking is that you can tweak recipes to your liking. With everything in place, it's time to start cooking. Scene script. Begin by preparing the beef. Our journey to creating a mouth-watering bulalo starts with the beef. Select the finest beef shanks and marrow you can find, as these are the stars of our dish. Once you have your beef, it's time to start the initial cooking process. First, place your beef into a large pot and then cover it with cold water. The temperature of the water is important as it helps to draw out the impurities from the beef, ensuring a clear and clean broth. Turn up the heat and bring this to a boil. You'll notice some impurities rising to the surface. Don't fret, this is a good sign. With a ladle or large spoon, skim off these impurities. This step may seem tedious, but it's crucial for achieving that clear, flavorful broth we're aiming for. Patience is the key here, my friends. Now let's add some flavor. Toss in a couple of halved onions and a handful of peppercorns. These will infuse our broth with a depth of flavor that will make our bulalo truly unforgettable. Next, reduce the heat and let everything simmer. This is where the magic happens. The beef will slowly tenderize, the marrow will melt into the broth, and the onions and peppercorns will release their flavors. As the beef simmers, let's turn our attention to the vegetables. Now it's all about the greens. We begin with the potatoes, peel them first, then cut them into quarters. The size is important here, as smaller pieces cook faster, but larger ones hold their shape better. It's all about finding that perfect balance. Next, we'll tackle the cabbage. A rough chop will do, we're not aiming for precision here. The cabbage brings a wonderful crunch and a mild, sweet flavor that really complements the meat. Then we introduce our peche, or bok choy, a leafy green that's a staple in Filipino cuisine. It has a mild, slightly sweet flavor and a delightful crunch that adds texture to the soup. Now it's time to add these veggies to the pot. Start with the potatoes, as they take the longest to cook. Once they're halfway done, add the cabbage, followed by the peche. The key is to ensure that all the vegetables are tender but not overcooked. Once the vegetables are tender, the final touch is the seasoning. To finish off, we season to taste. It's time to add that final touch that will elevate your bulalo to new heights. We'll begin by seasoning the broth with fish sauce. This adds a depth of flavor that's truly unique. Don't be shy with it, but also remember, it's always easier to add more later than to take away. Now let's sprinkle in some pepper, freshly ground if possible. The pepper adds a touch of heat and a punch of flavor that beautifully complements the richness of the broth. And finally, we garnish with crispy, golden fried garlic. This gives our bulalo an extra layer of flavor and a delightful crunch that contrasts beautifully with the tender meat and vegetables. Remember, the key to a great dish is tasting and adjusting. So take a sip and adjust the seasoning until it's just right for you. And there you have it, a comforting bowl of bulalo right in your own kitchen.